climate, culture and country. We also pay our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and their elders and acknowledge their journey. Item 1.3, offering of prayer, reflection or affirmation. As part of Council's commitment to recognising the cultural and spiritual diversity of our community, the prayer, reflection or affirmation this evening will be offered by Venerable Thich Thien Tam from the Buddhist Hua Niem Temple, Springvale South, a member of the Greater Dandenong Interfaith Network. Please all stand.
To join this meeting, and I have the opportunity leading a short meditation session today. As you know, to the past we all, to the future we all like. In the present, we are mindfulness of our thought, speech, and action. Then all our community can live in peace and harmony. Now, please join us for the short meditation. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is the wonderful moment. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. And breathing out, I know I am breathing out. At the in-breath goes deep, the out-breath goes slow. Breathing in makes me calm. Breathing out brings me at ease. With the in-breath, I smile. With the out-breath, I release, letting go. Breathing in, there is only the present moment. Breathing out, it is a wonderful moment. In, out, deep, slow, calm, at ease, smile, release, letting go. Present moment, wonderful moment. We will respect each other and we will live in harmony, in mindfulness of our cultural diversity. May the collection, wisdom of everyone here today make this possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable. Item 1.4, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting. Moved by Councillor Gillard, seconded by Councillor Tan. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 1.5, disclosures of interest. Ms Weatherall.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have a disclosure on a conflict of interest from Councillor Richard Lim, who, in regards to the town planning application 1.2, in regards to Balmoral Avenue, Springvale.
Thank you. Item 2, Officers' Reports, Part 1, 2.1, Documents for Sealing, 2.1.1, Documents for Sealing. Moved by Councillor Long, seconded by Councillor Tan. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 2.2, documents for tabling. 2.2.1, petitions and joint letters. Moved by Councillor Lim, seconded by Councillor Mehmeti. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 2.3, statutory planning applications. 2.3.1, town planning application. Is Councillor Lim?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a direct conflict of interest of non-pecuniary nature. I am the owner and shop of pharmacy in Balmoral Avenue, Springvale. Just like to leave the chamber. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lim. We will wait for Councillor Lim to leave the chamber. Item 2.3.1, town planning application number 1 to 2/1 to 3, Balmoral Avenue, Springvale, planning application number PLA 22/0088. Councillor Mehmeti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On page 40, on item 8, I'd like to make an amendment, Friday and Saturday, for the premises to be open from 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. the following day, and also item 9, Friday and Saturday, from 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. the following day.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Seconded by...
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Dark. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Question to the Acting Director of Planning. The alternate is the provision to open till 4 a.m. I understand there's other controls that were in the permit conditions. Is it the Acting Director's opinion that other conditions should, if the opening time is till 4 a.m, that other conditions should be adjusted as well?
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Mr Stewart, please.
The other conditions that are on the permit can deal with the hours being increased. They're actually quite flexible, so it's only those two that would need to be amended. The rest would be fine.
Thank you, Mr Stewart. Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Another question to the Acting Director of Planning. If this permit is allowed till 4 a.m, and there's then some sort of unruly or unwanted behaviour outside the premises, so around closing time, what powers does council have to sort of enforce against that sort of unwanted behaviour, given that there's residents right across the road at number 8 Balmoral Car Park Complex?
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Mr Stewart, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the conditions look at also amenity and patron management plans about when people are exiting the premise. That has to actually be integrated into the operator and actually has to make all staff aware of it. There's also security provided on site. If they were to do anything unruly at, say, 4 a.m, then obviously there are permit conditions that council can enforce. This also could be a police matter, which is completely separate to the permit, but there are conditions on the permit that could be dealing with it.
Thank you, Mr Stewart. Any further questions, councillors? Yes, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Question to the Acting Director of Planning. So, on balance, why was the recommendation of planning officers to recommend opening only until 2 a.m, as in the report on the agenda, rather than 4 a.m, as in this now alternate motion?
Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly. Mr Stewart, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The recommendation of 2 a.m. came from a gradual increase. At the moment, there's no late night activity in Springvale. The structure plan that's been integrated also looks at a nighttime economy, so it looks at more maybe 6 till midnight. There's one other karaoke bar in Springvale that's open till 1 a.m, so the gradual increase to 2 a.m. would be a better management of that particular premise and the entire precinct. If obviously over time they are complying with their permit conditions and there are no issues, there could be an increase to 4 a.m, but just considering that what the site is and the use is, we believe that 2 a.m. would be an appropriate time. We've also been provided with internal departments that have provided comments that 2 a.m. would be a more appropriate time to close at this stage, pending obviously a further review in the future.
Thank you, Mr Stewart. Any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? Proposed by Councillor O'Reilly. Councillor Mehmedi, would you like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This business is currently opening at the moment. This is an area which is an activity centre. This is also a local policy encourages night trading. There's been no objection from the police, and we need to actually give these businesses a fair go. By trying to make them trade less is not giving them that opportunity they need to make sure they encourage patrons to come to their facility. They've requested 4 a.m. And we've only agreeing or asking to agree only on a Friday and Saturday, which are both nights that people actually do go out. And I want to encourage Springvale Activity Centre. I want more activity in the evening, like our policy says. This actually has 29 on the recommendations. It's got 29 recommendations. I think I've never seen an application with that many recommendations. So by increasing this only by 2 hours from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m, I don't think it's going to make a big difference. I know that there many tests have been done at that premises for the acoustic level for any noise. So there's no noise going to come out of that premises. So I believe, and we should support this application because we need to support our businesses in our activity centre, which we have a local policy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmedi. Councillor Dark, as the seconder, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I will speak to this item because I do think it's an important part of everything that this council has done over the years to ensure that Springvale is the activity centre that is what we do. It is what we want it to be, I should say, sorry. And what we do want is to have late night trading. We do want it to be activated. That's why it's an activity centre. We do want people to come late at night. We want people to be able to go out, enjoy themselves without the big commute to the city and without being in positions and areas where there are issues that can happen. Particularly in the inner city, right in the heart of the CBD, there's a lot of issues when a lot of people are condensed together. But what we're talking about is a karaoke bar. We're not talking about a nightclub. We're not talking about a rave. We're not talking about anything that's over the top. We're talking about a karaoke bar. And I've been to many of karaoke bars over my life, a lot of karaoke bars in and around here.
Sorry, Councillor Dark. Councillor Lim, please.
Councillor Lim's coming back in.
Yep. Can we please close the door? Thank you. Okay. Councillor Dark, you may continue.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Lim's clearly so excited that he's coming back in to support and advocate my point of view on this as well. The fact is that an activity centre zone should be designed such that people have the opportunity late at night to go out and to enjoy things nearby. As Councillor Mehmedi said, there's been a heap of acoustic testing that's occurred in this area. This shop's come up in the past. It's been a topic of conversation. There's been a lot of back and forth, and there's been no complaints that I've been made aware of. There's been no complaints I know talking to some of the colleagues been made aware of, and the ward councillor has received no issues. So I think that it is something that we do need to support. And for all the work that this organisation is putting into the economic development team, into the business groups, into the community services to ensure that Springvale has got some life, for this council to then go out and oppose it based upon some changes required for 2 to 4 hours Councillor O'Reilly is putting into place is crazy. To look at to give you an idea, and it's, I suppose, in the capability of what 2 hours is, it's 26 Whitney Houston songs, according to my Google search just then. So for the people that go into the karaoke bar singing their Whitney Houston lyrics to their heart's content, that's 26 songs more between 2 to 4 a.m. And I think that it is really a non-significant change, and it does ensure that the business has got the capacity, something that they can promote to bring more people to Springvale, to make it into what has been portrayed as sensational Springvale. So I would implore my colleagues to support the amendment put forward by Councillor Mehmedi to ensure that the residents have everything they need nearby.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Councillor Riley, as the first.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a few points. Firstly, it's a low point for this council that it's judging a permit based on the duration of Whitney Houston songs. Mayor, can I start with that? But back to the substantive issue, our plan talks about incremental change, and this permit is talking about the number of patrons going from 110 to 175, and the officer's recommendation allowed for that. Also allowed for an incremental time increase to 2 a.m. So I would love that if they were allowed to go to 4 a.m, that there'd be no issues, but the councillors here can't guarantee that. Going on the balance of probabilities, and there's residents right across the road at number 8 car park. It's apartment type living, and if this venue is serving alcohol to the early hours of the morning and patrons are exiting, I don't think that councillors that support 4 a.m. can guarantee to those residents that there won't be any trouble. And it's for that reason that officers recommended an incremental change, which could then be reviewed, and the applicant could apply for an extended time, maybe 12 months or whatever down the track. So let's not risk our residents' amenity by making a substantial change to the conditions for this venue, Mayor. So I think based on all of that, the police were consulted about a 2 a.m. close, not a 4 a.m. close. So all the authorities have given agreement under the parameters of that being a 2 a.m. and council at the last minute.
Sorry, Councillor O'Reilly. Councillor Mehmedi, what is your point of order?
I don't think we should just trust what Councillor O'Reilly is saying, whether the police have been asked whether a 2 a.m. or a 4 a.m. Could the acting manager of planning respond to that? Because I can't just take Councillor O'Reilly's word on that.
Mr Stewart, are you able to please answer that question and confirm whether police were consulted on that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the application was referred to Police Victoria. They didn't provide any comments, so whether or not they've reviewed it in the 4 a.m. completion time is probably a question mark. But yeah, it was referred to Police Victoria. I probably couldn't confirm if it was 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. that they were assessing.
Okay, thank you, Mr Stewart. Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you. Okay, point taken. I agree with that if the police weren't given a specific time, then I stand corrected on that. But I think, look, as council, we're giving them, under the original recommendation, we're giving them a substantial increase in patrons and an incremental increase in the closing or the hours of operation. I think that's fair. I think that if it incentivises the venue for good behaviour, if they then know that if everything's good, they can apply for an extension down the track. But if we give it to them all now, then there's less incentive for them to make sure that patrons exiting aren't disturbing the residential amenity of those residents that live in central Springvale. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Are there any other speakers either for or against the alternate motion? No? Okay, so right of reply, please, Councillor Mehmeti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've heard Councillor O'Reilly's response. To date, Council have received no complaints. Police have received no complaints. So this business has been 100% compliance. The police didn't even bother to respond after our councillors requested them to make a comment. So they don't want to waste any more time on this because they know it's a well-run business. They've never had any issues there. The recommendations speak for itself. I've never seen 29 recommendations on an application. So this business will have to comply with all those recommendations. So by increasing from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., which is an activity centre, and as far as I've been on council, we've encouraged investment like this in our activity centres. So for that reason, we're giving businesses false hope that we are going to be an activity centre, and we do want to encourage businesses. This business has been opening, I think, I'm not sure how long, but it has been open since last year. So my understanding is these are the times they've asked to extend because this is what their customers are telling them. And like Councillor Dark said, this is not a nightclub or where people will come in and make nuisances and there's fights and etc. These karaoke bars, to my understanding, is you get a group of 5, 10, maybe even a bigger group of 20. They go in, they have a social drink, they sing and dance and whatever in a private setting, and once they're done, that group then leaves the premises. So I encourage all councillors to support this amendment and support our local businesses.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. We'll now put this alternate to a vote. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Garrard, Councillor Long, Councillor Mehmeti, Councillor Dark. All those against, please raise your hand. Councillor O'Reilly, Councillor Tan, Councillor Milkovich, Councillor Foster. As it's 4-all, I, as the Chair, have the casting vote, and I vote against the alternate motion. So we now move to the original motion.
Mayor,
yes, Councillor O'Reilly.
Move the original motion in the agenda.
Moved by Councillor O'Reilly, seconded by seconded by Councillor Tan. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? Opposed by Councillor Mehmeti. Councillor O'Reilly, would you like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Mayor. I think the arguments have been gone over, so I've got a bit of time left. I could belt out a bit of Tim Dark's favourite Whitney Houston song, but I'll spare you that and just say that it's been gone through all the recommendations in the agenda paper. As Councillor Mehmeti said, there's a lot of conditions, and I fully support the venue and what it's trying to achieve, and I hope that I'm sure that it will go well, and that down the track, if they wish to, they can apply for a further extension of operating times. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Councillor Tan, as the seconder, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As everyone also spoke about this earlier, I do support this motion just regarding, mainly noises, especially in the city of Greater Dandenong, mainly in Springvale. So it's close to the resident area as well.
Sorry, Councillor Tan, if you can take a seat. What is your point of order, Councillor Mehmeti?
Councillor Tan has said the noises. There's been acoustic tests. There is no noise, completely 100% no noise that comes out of that building. So she can please retract that comment.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Councillor Tan,
is there any evidence to support that?
Absolutely. That's why you don't know what you're voting on.
Let's talk about the karaoke singing, okay? Yeah, we talk about people hanging out until 4 a.m. in the morning. You can have any anti-social behaviours, all this happening after hours. So obviously it's not, that's the reason I'm not supporting it, because it's close to resident. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. As Opposition to this item, Councillor Mamedi.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I cannot believe this council has not supported our local policy that encourages late trading in our activity centres. This is unbelievable. We are not supporting local businesses. I cannot believe you can sit there and vote against that.
Point of order, Mayor.
Councillor
Thank you.
Milkovich, what is
the
your point?
council is in effect, Councillor Mamedi, supporting local business by extending the hours and extending the patronage while reducing the parking allotments. No, it is.
What's the point of order, Madam Mayor? Because I don't think Councillor Bilkovich has any idea as well.
Councillor Mamedi.
We are supporting that. We are not supporting. It's not true.
Councillor Milkovich.
Not supporting it.
Yeah, we are. Because the extension has been granted.
Councillor Milkovich, please take your
it's
seat.
not the-
Councillor Mamedi, you may resume.
Unfortunately, Madam Mayor, I don't know what these councils are voting on because they've got no idea. When they're not supporting local businesses, it's really unbelievable. And I foreshadow a rescission motion if this is lost.
Thank you, Councillor Mamedi. Are there any other speakers, either for or against? Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I'm astounded by Councillor Mamedi as to what this council is actually voting on and what this council is actually discussing right now. It is clearly evident in what is in front of us tonight, in what is being presented to this council, is supporting a local business in an activity centre zone. That is exactly what this whole item is about. It is about supporting a small business in its growth, in being able to battle and fight in the way that the economy is at the moment, in finding a niche to be able to survive, to be able to thrive, and to be able to actually operate in this municipality. And the councillors and the debates being put forward clearly shows either you're dumb or you don't understand what it is you're actually voting on. It is very black and white in what is in the agenda tonight. It is crystal clear. What is in the agenda tonight? There has been referrals to the VCGLR. There's been no issues with that at all. There has been referrals to Victoria Police. There has been no comment, no issues raised at all. I can assure you that in this municipality, in Foster Street, when we had an old nightclub and there was brawls breaking out and it was on Night News, as soon as Victoria Police were told this is address coming forward, there was staunch opposition. From the letter from the Chief Commissioner saying, absolutely, this is a very bad mistake to keep the liquor licence going on, and this council rescinded that and that permit was finished. And that nightclub subsequently finished from there. To have no comment being made for a karaoke bar in this municipality clearly shows that Victoria Police doesn't have any issues with it. It clearly shows that they are supportive of it. Because if you're against it, you're very quick to oppose it, and that is the way we operate in this society, and that is the way that I know Victoria Police operates in the way that this business goes. To then have an increase in the patronage, to have a large shop, it's over 2 different shops, shops 1 and 2, over this premises, having undergone the testing that it's gone, the acoustic testing, all of the research to make sure that the residential amenity next door is not affected, and to have been operating for that long without having any complaints clearly shows that the apartments opposite are not being affected. It clearly shows that the acoustic panelling that's been installed is compliant, is working, and it's not disruptive. And I have never, ever been, and I'm a person out of all these councils who goes out, no question, the latest out of, clearly the latest. And I can assure you that all the karaoke bars I've been to, and I was only in one a fortnight ago at Crown Casino, that they are the most civil crowd. They go in, they sing, it's questionable how good they can sing, but they have a couple of drinks and they leave and they go home and that's it. I've never been at a karaoke bar where out the front there's an attack, where there's a brawl, where there's fighting, where there's people in the gutter throwing up. I've been at many nightclubs where that's the case, and that is not what we're voting on tonight. What we are voting on tonight is a karaoke bar in an activity centre zone that is supported by all of the authorities, and it would be silly for this council not to support such a thing. And I agree, I'll be seconding Councillor Mamedi's rescission motion should this not get up.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Are there any other speakers, either for or against this item? All right. Right of reply, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I'll put my expertise of karaoke alongside Councillor Dark's any day. But I was singing karaoke way before you were even around, I guess, Councillor Dark. But this council is supporting this business. It's just not giving this business exactly what it wants. And that's because as council, we should be making balanced decisions that manage the interests of everybody in that activity centre. And secondly, it's better to be cautious than to make mistakes that are hard to retract or unwind, or basically impossible to unwind, Mayor. So I think for those reasons, we're talking about council
Sorry, Mayor,
allowing...
point of order. Sorry, I've got
Councillor Riley, please be seated. Councillor Dark.
Yeah, clearly Councillor Wright doesn't know what he's talking about. The fact is that this council has the power and the authority and the abilities to rescind any planning application that we put forward. There are legal means, so for him to say it's impossible is clearly legally incorrect.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dark. Councillor Riley, you may continue.
Mayor, I'm happy to stand corrected. It's not impossible, but it's never happened in my experience that council has allowed a permit and then cancelled that permit subsequently. We've all had advice previously today that to do that requires a whole extended rigmarole in VCAT. So what I meant was that it is much more difficult to retract hours than it is to allow them. And for that reason, this council should be cautious. Better to be cautious because the venue is then incentivised, and that if everything goes well, as we all hope it will, then down the track they can apply for extended hours. We're giving them what is in our policy, incremental change. So patrons going from 110 to 175. If that's not more than incremental, what is? And the hours going to 2 a.m, Mayor. So I think that is quite fair for this council as the responsible authority to allow and support the business in this way. We're not giving them everything that they want, but we have to balance out everybody's interest in that activity centre. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. So all those in favour, please raise your hand of the original motion. So Councillor Riley, Councillor Tan, Councillor Milkovich and Councillor Foster. All those against, please raise your hand. Councillor Garrard, Councillor Long, Councillor Mehmeti, Councillor Dark. As it's even split, and as the chair with the casting vote, I vote for the original motion, and which means the item's
Madam Mayor, I
carried.
foreshadow a rescission motion. More than happy to forward a rescission motion. When will I have to do that by, Ms. Weatherall?
Thank you, Ms. Weatherall. 12.
Yep. Till 12 noon tomorrow.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Can we please call Councillor Lim back into the chambers?
So calling points of order, not specifying what. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That should be need to control. Establish a point of order, and then you decide whether you think it's a relevant point. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Welcome back, Councillor Lim. Item 3, question time public. Ms. Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And our first question this evening is from Pablo Rodriguez of Keysborough, and it concerns Tyers Lane in Keysborough. A few years ago, I inquired about installing speed calming devices on Tyers Lane, Keysborough, to address the speeding and antisocial issues. Today, as Tyers Lane is almost completely filled in, the situation's gotten worse. The two neighbouring West-East streets and the grid, Westwood Boulevard and Church Road, already have speed humps to discourage antisocial behaviour. Tyers Lanes receives just as much, if not more, traffic than those two, as it is a quick and easy way to avoid the lights on Greens Road, and also connects to Keysborough Gardens Primary School and the shopping centre. My question is, when will Tyers Lane receive traffic calming devices? Can I ask our Director Engineering and Major Projects, Mr Kersley, to respond?
Thank you. Mr Kersley, please.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for your question regarding the timing for when Tyers Lane may receive traffic calming devices. I can advise that Council, like the majority of Melbourne Metropolitan Councils, is faced with limited funding when it comes to the ongoing issues related to traffic movements. The application of the program identifies and ranks locations in accordance with the greatest road safety risk. There are currently over 150 locations within the Local Area Traffic Management Program database, which includes Tyers Lane. Based on various assessment factors, which include vehicle speeds, volumes and composition, road geometry, adjacent land use and crash history, Tyers Lane is currently ranks outside of the top 50. This means traffic calming devices are not likely to be installed in the short to medium term. The data is reviewed as new information becomes available, so the status of Tyers Lane may change in the future. In the meantime, Council will position a vehicle speed display trailer on Tyers Lane, which may remain on site for a following few weeks. The display on the trailer's screen informs drivers their approach speed and has in previous applications assisted in moderating excessive speed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kersley. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And our next question is from Philip Lamaro of Dandenong and concerns footpath tripping hazards. In February, I sent an email to Council referencing a fallen injury from tripping over an empty bread tray on Thomas Street, Dandenong. I referenced that multiple store owners use the footpath to store items and in some cases empty bread trays and empty boxes. I've not received a response from Greater Dandenong City Council, so I'll ask here. Lonsdale Street prohibits store owners to use the footpath to store or display items. This law is based on presentation and safety. Due to my injury, I'd like to know, how does Greater Dandenong City Council have the same local law on other streets? As this has caused an injury, would Council look at expanding this law to protect residents from trip hazards and future injuries? Can I ask our Acting Director, City Planning, Design and Amenity, Mr Stewart, to respond?
Thank you. Mr Stewart, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, we certainly hope and trust that Mr Lamaro has made a swift recovery from his fall. Mr Lamaro's comments with regard to the local law is noted. I can advise that this Council's local law is similar to that in other jurisdictions and that it is considered sufficient for the purposes of maintaining pedestrian safety along Thomas Street. I might also mention that Council will commence reviewing its local law in the next financial year, and as part of that review, a public consultation process will be undertaken. Mr Lamaro may wish to make a submission at that point in regards to that.
Thank you, Mr Stewart. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you. And the next two questions are from Elizabeth Grasso of Keysborough, and they concern climate change mobilisation and engagement plan. First question concerns, when is the consultation on the Greater Dandenong Climate Change Mobilisation and Engagement Plan going to start? And question 2, will there be options and information about those options to make written submissions other than short online surveys? Can the Acting Director, City Planning, Design and Amenity, Mr Stewart, please respond?
Thank you. Mr Stewart, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Ms Grasso, for the question regarding when the consultation on the Greater Dandenong Climate Change Mobilisation and Engagement Plan will get started. I can confirm that this will be before the end of April. Also, free-form submissions will be welcomed via email or letter. Hard copy documents of the consultation documentation, including the survey, will also be made available at customer service centres across Greater Dandenong for those who don't have access to the internet.
Thank you, Mr Stewart. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this is our last question this evening from Elizabeth Grasso of Keysborough, and it concerns the Biodiversity Action Plan. When is Greater Dandenong's Biodiversity Action Plan going to come to a council meeting for endorsement? Can I ask our Director of Business Engineering Major Projects, Mr Kersley, to respond?
Thank you. Mr Kersley, please.
Thank you, Ms Grasso, for the question. I can advise that the council meeting on the 24th of April is when this council will consider the biodiversity strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kersley. Item 4, Officers' Reports Part 2. 4.1 Contracts. 4.1.1 Contract number 2223-33 Leonard Avenue Streetscape Project, Noble Park Revitalisation Works. Moved by Councillor Tan, seconded by Councillor Dark. Are there any questions?
Just a comment, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to the state government, especially to Noble Park Revitalisation Board, for contributing funding to these projects. So thank you.
What's the question, Madam Mayor?
Sorry, Councillor.
I should,
Sorry. Yes, please, Councillor Tan, if you can.
only comments.
Okay. That's all right. I'll accept it this time, but generally after we've moved an item, we'll go to comments. Thanks. Is there any opposition to this item? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Did you have a question? Sorry, Councillor Dark, I'm getting a bit all over. Go for it, Councillor Dark. Ask the question.
Thank you, Mayor. Just
Bit
a
back
question.
to front today.
That's okay. Just a question to the relevant officer that I had was just with regards to the shops and the shop traders in Leonard Avenue. As part of the streetscape upgrades, what communication we're having with them and what level of correspondence we're having with them. I know that there's a very popular egg shop there that used to be connected to a farm in the Keysborough South area that does a significant trade, and I just want to understand how potentially they may be affected with the streetscape upgrades.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dark. Mr Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, very important question in activity centres. Essentially, now that we've appointed, or if the vote's taken and we appoint the contractor, there'll be two teams engaged with the contractor. One will be the capital improvement team through the project management. Secondly, will be the business and revitalisation team through Kevin Van Boxtel and his team. With regards to, they will be the, I suppose, the unit of council that will engage directly with the traders in terms of informing them of what some of the consequences may be with regards to timing of the works, but also they'll play an important role in advising the contractor in terms of some of their obligations with regards to appropriate timing and plenty of information forward of when the works are going so that the businesses are aware of what the impacts may be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Are there any further questions, councillors? All right, I will go to, is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I now declare this item carried. Thank you. Councillor Tan, would you like to make an additional comment?
Already made the comment before, so I just want to say thank you to the state government, especially to the Northern Park Revitalisation Board, Mr Lee Talamas MP, for contributing this funding, about $500,000 toward this project, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Item 4.2, other. 4.2.1, aged care reform. Moved by Councillor Garrard. Seconded by Councillor Tan. Are there any questions, councillors? Yes, Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. May I have a question for the relevant officer regarding this item? I have, I suppose, a substantial level of concern in which this has been presented tonight. There's a report just for noting that there needs to be more work to be done, and we have an older ageing population in this municipality, and the potential effects that this can have can be quite drastic and detrimental to them and can cause a lot of stress, particularly those that are receiving council support at the moment. I know that there's been in the media coverage, I believe the city of Boroondara had I suppose for lack of it, almost an implosion of their services where services that were supposed to have been contracted weren't being provided.
Point of order.
What is your point of order, Councillor Garrard?
Councillor Dark has not read the item. The item is not talking about removing anything at this stage. The question is misplaced.
You may continue, Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. If I can get to the question, Councillor Garrard. The item and the concern I've got is that the residents may not understand exactly what is coming to this council tonight and what is being put before us and what is being convened to the people who are receiving our support at the moment about what is the future plans for, I suppose, the support that this council provides through the Commonwealth systems.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dark. Mandy's. Thank you. Ms Catlett, please, if you can answer that.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The first thing I'd like to say, this is really about notifying that we have to make some decisions now. It is not a council program, it is a Commonwealth funded program, and we have a subcontracting arrangement with the Commonwealth Government. The program that we have had an arrangement with the federal government for a number of years finishes on the 30th of June next year. So we have to make a decision, whether we like it or not, about whether we're going to progress to be part of the aged care reformed combined home care program. We still haven't got all the details to date about what it means, and I take on board, Councillor, what you said about our community. So very clearly in the report, it's about not only are we consulting with our community, part of the consultation is also to educate and inform our community what these reforms mean to them. This isn't about taking money away from this community. What the Commonwealth is really trying to do is, instead of giving council to the, giving funding for services to the provider, of which we are one, but the funding will then go to the client, and then the client will then choose who their provider is going to be. A similar sort of situation to the NDIS. So it's about, we still haven't got all the details, so this is a process that we need to undertake with our community about what our community needs to keep people healthy and safe in their own homes for as long as possible, and what role council should be playing in this going forward.
Thank you, Ms Gatlick. Councillor Dark?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a supplementary to that question as well, given the, I suppose, drastic imposition onto this council and onto the services by the federal government, what have we been doing in terms of trying to seek, I suppose, a level of clarification and information and support of what's being provided by the federal government to ensure that then our community, I suppose, we have the options and we're informed that we can then inform them?
Through you, Madam Mayor, local government in Victoria is quite different to most other states in the provision of aged care. Most other states haven't had such a strong historical background in the provision of in-home support care over the years. So the Commonwealth, we have been making ever since the start of the reform process, which happened in 2014, 2015, about what would be our role, what would this mean for local government. The federal government, to a great stage, didn't really understand how Victoria was different. With the new federal government that came in last year, there was actually a number of workshops in late 2022, led by the Senator Linda White, the Victorian ALP Senator, to really get the bureaucrats to understand what local government does in aged care. So they are still working that through. As I said, the final model is not set in stone. The latest advice that we have is that there will be further announcements once the next federal budget comes down in May. So we have been I have been to more webinars and seminars than I'd like to think about over the last 6 years, to put our point and to also advocate on behalf of this community that they need these services, and the specific needs of this community with our high cold community, where people don't the system at the moment is so complex. Even for people working in the system, they don't understand at times how it works. So for people in our community, we spend so much time helping people navigate the system that the aim of the federal government is to simplify it. But the devil will always be in the detail, and we haven't got the detail. So this process is about, for us to understand our community better about what they need going forward, and to marry that with the new model and how we can work together to do that with the federal government.
Thank you, Ms Gatlick. Are there any other questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Councillor Garrard, would you like to make a comment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I'd just like to take this opportunity to reassure the residents of the City of Greater Dandenong that there is no change at the moment, and what this report calls for is a robust consultation with all stakeholders to arrive at, as the officer said, at the most appropriate model for the City of Greater Dandenong in response to the seismic shift in the aged care reform. So there will be no change in the next 12 months. What we are talking about is an options paper that will be provided to Council, which is at the end of a very rigorous consultation process. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Item 4.2.2, draft minutes of Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee meeting, 23rd February 2023, moved by Councillor Long, seconded by Councillor Garrard. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 4.2.3, Dandenong Community Hub Consultation and Concept Plan. Councillor Mehmeti.
Madam Mayor, I've got an alternate motion. The council endorse option 2 as the preferred base option of these 3 options consulted on November 22nd, subject to the following. Item 1, in addition to the existing CIP funding in the 22-23 budget for the Dandenong Community Hub, a sum of $680,000 is to be allocated from the Major Projects Reserve in the proposed 23-24 budget to the detailed design and documentation stage. Any future capital project savings that materialise during 23-24 year will be used to reimburse the Major Project Reserve. Recommendation 2, using option 2 as a base concept design, that a co-design approach to be used, finalise the concept design prior to 30th of October 2023 using feedback from the November 22 consultation. Item 3, that the following finalisation of the concept design as per item 2 above, that council proceed to detailed design in 23-24. Item 4, council participates in the State Government of Victoria for 4-year-old kindergarten pre-prep initiative to determine future early years requirements within the City of Greater Dandenong. And recommendation 5, utilising the preferred concept design and the detailed design plans, council advocate to the State Government for a partnered funding to support the construction of the Dandenong Community Hub.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Seconded by Councillor Garrard. Are there any questions? Question, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to the relevant officer, Mayor. I'm interested if the Victorian Government has its own plans for a hub, or had its own plans for a hub of this sort, and then we went ahead, did detailed design on this one, and it wasn't what the Victorian Government sort of agreed with, then are we potentially going to be losing substantial funding by progressing this to the detailed design stage, potentially years before it's built?
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. There's always a difficulty in predicting what the state will give us funds for. That's not a question that I can answer. I wish I could, but in terms of what's available, we know that the budget for this particular coming financial year is a difficult one for all levels of government, both state and federal. Councillor Mehmeti, though, is correct in saying that to have detailed plans ready to go in terms of part of an advocacy package is always a good thing. And this is not foreshadowing the construction of this particular development, and that would have to be a different decision with regards to the budgeting for construction at a later time. And through this process, no doubt the officers can advise on what that particular timing would be from a financial point of view. We can only ever hope that we would get funding from the state and or feds for any significant development such as this particular hub.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Are there any further questions? Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in the alternate motion, it's got a sum of $680,000. So can the mover just confirm that where that number's come from for detailed design and documentation stage, given that I've understood it to be substantially lower?
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Councillor Mehmeti.
I'll refer that question to Mr Kearsley, who will detail with the amount of funding that is required to get this to detailed design.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, councillors. Through you, the particular wording of the resolution refers to a sum of $680,000 to be allocated from the major projects reserve. What it does also refer to is existing CIP funding in the 22-23 budget. We do have some carry forward with regards to the current process of approximately, I believe, $230,000. We do have another sum of money within the reserves that was transferred back to reserve at mid-year budget. So the additional 600 goes on top of existing funds of approximately 1.3, 1.4, because my advice to council has been to do a detailed design process on a facility of the scale that we're looking at. You would be estimating it to be about $2 million.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Any further questions, councillors?
Yes, Mayor.
Councillor Milkovich.
If we can just get the relevant officer to respond. Do we actually have the money in the budget to do this detailed design in this budget or not?
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Mr Keasley?
In the budget, and maybe Ms Hanson can make a comment on this if I get it wrong, the current budget in the 23-24 proposed, that will be considered by council later this month, does not have this project listed. However, when you say it's funded, it's a bit different when you say it's funded from reserve, because the money is sitting in reserve as compared to it coming from rates. So council can allocate certain funds out of reserve, and that's what this particular recommendation in the alternate looks for. I'm not sure whether Ms Hanson wants to add anything to that. No.
Ms Hanson? No. Okay, thank you, Mr Keasley.
Just a supplementary, if Ms Hanson can respond, maybe how would that money from the reserve, how would that affect other projects that we have on the go regarding reserve fund?
Ms Hanson, please.
Through you, Mayor. So the major project reserve is actually earmarked for major projects, which the Dandenong Community Hub is one, or considered to be one. I think the resolution proposes that any funds or any savings that would materialise during the year would reimburse the $680,000 during the 2023-24 year. It doesn't have any impact on our operations. I think this is clearly withdrawing from the major project reserve now and reimbursing it during the 23-24 year.
Thank you, Ms Hanson. Are there any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition to the alternate?
Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment.
Okay, and what is your amendment, Councillor Riley?
Yeah, Mayor, the amendment to this alternate motion is that for point 1, that the detailed design and documentation is done for the, if you like, the community hub portion of the building, but detailed design and documentation is not done for the early years kindergarten and childcare, the building that is adjoining the community hub. That's my
Point of order,
motion.
Madam Mayor. Councillor is not referring to the substance of the alternate that we are alternate that we are discussing. He's referring to decisions that have been made down the track, and it's not relevant to this.
Sorry, Councillor Garrett. So what we need is a seconder for the amendment. It's my understanding. Is there a seconder for Councillor Riley's amendment? So as there's no seconder for the amendment, that lapses. So we return back to Councillor Mehmeti's alternate motion, or the substantive motion.
I oppose it.
So opposed by Councillor Milkovich.
Madam Mayor, I'm not clear on what's happening. What is...
So Councillor Milkovich has opposed.
Okay.
No. So please, will the mover please speak to the item? So Councillor Mehmeti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If you go back to 14th of September 2020, a motion number 89 requested council to go look at getting a community hub in Dandenong, integrational Dandenong community hub. In May 2021, the first round of community workshops and consultation to establish the vision and purpose of the hub Between 15th of June and 16th of August in 21, council workshops to review consultation outcomes, design components and spatial allocations. September to October 21, consultation and engagement undertaken to review and gather feedback to the draft concept plans. January to March 2022, draft concept designs developed by Crox and Ramsey. March to September 2022, an alternative building layout model developed to preferred hub site. On 19th of September, presentation of business case and updated concept plans to Council, which was a councillor briefing session. And on the 17th of October to the 14th of November, a consultation of 3 concept designs. I think this council has done a lot of work over the last few years. Speaking to the residents, you know what they tell me? What do they think of the people of Dandenong? Are we second-class citizens?
Sorry, can I have some silence from the gallery, please?
To me, this is very personal because I support my community and I listen to my community and I've consulted with my community. From the start, these councillors who will oppose this have always opposed it, so I don't think they will change their mind and they don't listen to community consultation, because that's what we have done over the last 3 years. As we've already said, this will not affect our operational budget. This is a major project in the city. That's why we use major project reserves. Noble Park has a community centre. Jan Wilson has a centre. Paddy O'Donoghue has a centre. Springvale Community Hub is a centre. And now we will deliver the Keysborough Community Hub. My residents are telling me, where's Dandenong? Why isn't Dandenong consulted?
Can I please ask for silence in the gallery, please?
By getting this project to detailed design, we are moving in the right direction. We know that this government, state and federal, offer stimulus packages. By us to have this project shovel-ready in 2025, which is less than 2 years, there'll be a federal election.
Please, silence in the gallery.
2026, there'll be a state election. We know that we will advocate for our community to construct this. But tonight, councillors, we're not voting on that. We are only voting to get it to detailed design. So I urge these councillors, over the last 3 years, we have been working with our community to get to detailed design. Please support this, not only for my benefit or your benefit, but for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Councillor Garrard. As the seconder, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and there's not much I can say. I think Councillor Mehmeti summed it up very well. I think we can see there's enormous support here tonight, and there has been enormous support for this project for a very long time. And we know that the city of Greater Dandenong is one of the most disadvantaged areas, more disadvantaged actually than where we are building hubs at the moment. It's critical that this part of the city, which has the highest level of overseas-born residents, has the highest need, the lowest SES, that they have a place, an intergenerational hub, where all levels of the community can meet and learn and grow and connect. And that's what this hub is about. And it's long overdue, and all we are asking for is a detailed design. It's not much.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Please, in the gallery, if you could please be quiet. Thank you.
Fantastic. I can already see
Councillor Milkovich.
Councillor Garrard and Councillor Mehmeti running for the state MP position every day where they talk. It's great. And look, to say we're not supporting our community is not true. All that this recommendation, the current one, is saying that basically there's no money in the budget this year. That's all it's saying.
Excuse me, in the gallery, please.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Milkovich, if you can please be seated, and Councillor Mehmeti, what is your point of order?
Councillor Milkovich said there's no money in this budget. What Councillor Milkovich doesn't understand is we have a major project reserve. There is money in our major project reserve. So can you please take that back?
Councillor Milkovich, please continue.
Points of order are in order tonight. That's fine, not a problem. Councillor Milkovich is a new councillor, a COVID councillor, not a 16-year-old veteran, which is true. There's no point of order for that.
Point of order. 18 years if he's going to...
18 years. I stand corrected. I do apologise publicly and officially to Councillor Mehmeti. He is a long-standing member of this council. He knows in and outs of the council. Now, this report that's been tabled by the council officers, and to say that, by the way, just to say that there's a great support, 10 people out of 176,000 residents do not, in my eyes, represent great support. Just for the record. Now, we do support them. The Dandenong Central has had tremendous amount of money spent over the years on the CBD. From this building to Lonsdale Street, to revitalisation of Dandenong Market, to everything else. So we're not going to go one for one with all the other wards. That's not how it operates. All I'm saying is that this project is going to get done, but it's not going to get done all. Proposal is not to get it done this year, and the concept design is proposed to be finalised for the 2024-2025 financial year. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Are there any other speakers, either for or against? Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. If I can say a few words on this, I am actually happy to support this alternate motion. I agree with the main point that the proponent has said, is that in my experience and in council's experience, these projects are much more likely to attract funding from other governments if they are designed and shovel ready. So I'm fine with that. What I do, but I'd also like to note that I do have major reservations of the so-called, well, it's called intergenerational and integrated and all this sort of thing, right, with the early years part, Mayor. But what it will amount to, practically, after all the buzzwords have been said, is it amounts to full-time kindergarten and childcare on a site near the Dandenong Market, and there's not much integration between the early years and the community hub. So we'll have the same people, the same parents with their prams going to the same destination, and in a what is currently highly congested. And for those that have been at Dandenong Market in peak hour now, there's no car parking there now. So why would you build a kindergarten childcare full-time centre where car parking's chockers already? That does not make sense. Also, I think that the councillors should have advocated, rather than this early years malarkey, because it's at the wrong site, they should have advocated for a bigger community hub in Dandenong, one with community meeting rooms, rather than a smaller one that isn't as good as Springvale Community Hub. So they got distracted by all the early years things. So I will support the alternate motion. It's not the perfect one. I recommended an amendment that I thought would have been better. But I do want it to progress. But just for the record, I have major reservations about putting full-time kindergarten and childcare in a highly congested location. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Councillor Long.
Thank you. I would like to urge my fellow councillors to vote for this alternate motion to allocate funds in the 2023-24 budget for the concept and detailed design for the Dandenong Community Hub.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Are there any other speakers for or against that haven't spoken yet? Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I've listened to both sides of this debate, and I've, in the initial start and the initial part of the conversation was all for it, particularly to do with, I suppose, the accumulation of the facilities that this council has that are run down. And they are, there's no question about it, we do have a lot of ageing infrastructure in place, infrastructure that's no longer fit for purpose. And I do compare the two, when I do compare what happens when you get areas like Springvale that receive millions and millions of dollars in a very small area, the Keysborough area, which has taken a very long time to get the infrastructure that we've got now, and then also within Central Dandenong, it is a very, very large area that has received a lot of funding over the last few years. Now, whether that's been in terms of Development Victoria contributions, whether that's been this building, whether it's been the de-revitalisation of Central Dandenong, and whatever has been funded, there has been a lot of money put to each side. And I do understand the complexities around where it comes, and I do know that we are in a position where we do secure the most funding when we are in a position where we do have the full package that's available and the government seeks shovel-ready projects. The issue I have is that the state government announced some funding for and some research into what they've called a multicultural hub and some other funding about what other facilities can be provided. And it's a very, very grey area. And I do find it very hard without having all the detail at the moment. And my fear is that we would go down a path, we would spend $700,000 engaging a detailed design for something that the state government's then going to come out and say, we're going to build the same thing, but we do it to this. Was it a point of order?
Are you finished?
No,
Is that, sorry, Councillor Garrett, is that a point of order?
No, I just want to correct.
Then I think
I just want to make a correction
That's
that
a point of order.
that the multicultural hub is an entirely different concept, and the two should not be conflated. One is a surface model, and one is a community hub. They're not in any way. So, Councillor,
there's no point of order. Sit down. Sit down.
Councillor Garrett.
This is what we're talking about. What we do have. What we do have, what we do need to ensure is that we are being fiscally responsible with ratepayer money. And to go down the path right now, this term, to put $680,000 into some detailed design for something that may not be the case, may not be there, is something that I'm not willing to put this much ratepayers' money currently on the line without knowing all the details and hoping that we'll be able to secure some level of funding from the state or federal government. Am I supportive of the community hub? 100%. Am I supportive of it being done at this current minute, in this current budget requirement, right now, where all the councils have just gone through a budget period, where we've all missed out on projects within our ward that we want funded, and then to have an item come up which then we're having to raid funds and raid reserves to fund projects so things are being committed and done, is something that I'm not really happy with supporting it. And that is why at this stage, with the current alternate as what it's put forward, I'm not supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Are there any other speakers that haven't spoken, either for or against? Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. I just got a question to Michelle, just about the project, about the budget again. So just in terms about the $680,000 from the reserve, that's from the major reserve, is that's going to be affecting all the major projects like Dandenong Oasis that's coming up, or any of the major ones coming up? Is it part of that? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Ms Hanson, please.
Through you, Mayor. Thanks for the question, Councillor Tan. Look, it won't impact all other reserves funding Dandenong Wellbeing Centre or the redevelopment of Dandenong Oasis is already factored in to Council's reserves. The only thing that I'll highlight, and with the forthcoming budget and as part of the budget deliberations with Council, is that you've got a number of significant projects on the horizon in the very short term, and we don't know what Dandenong Wellbeing Centre or the outcomes of that project will be. So any amounts quarantined and in addition are held in that major project reserve. Hopefully that's clarified the question, Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Ms Hanson. Okay, so I think every councillor has had an opportunity to speak. Councillor Mehmeti, would you like your right of reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Dandenong is a city. As you can see, it's developing. There's been talk about what's been happening in the past few years. We are an activity centre. If you take a drive on the way when you get out of this building, you go to Robinson Street, they're building 100 apartments for families to live in. As you know, the Foster Street precinct, there's going to be more apartments where many thousands of people will live. As you know, our blocks, our residential blocks, where there was once one house, are now turning into apartment blocks. They're turning into townhouses. Our community is growing. Our community is one of the most disadvantaged communities in Victoria. All our other suburbs in our city have community hubs. We, as a community, care about our early years. We care about kindergarten. We care about childcare. This has to be included in a community hub. All I can say is our residents believe it is time, and we as a council need to get this project shovel-ready to detailed design and make sure we advocate to the state government and federal government that this disadvantaged community needs support. So whoever doesn't support this does not support the community, and it's simple as that.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Please, if I can have some silence from the gallery. I know you're very excited about this and very passionate about this.
Do I get to speak?
No.
No, you've already spoken. Sorry, Councillor Garrard.
Got a chance after.
You can make a comment afterwards. We will. I will go to a vote now. So, all those in favour of the alternate motion, please raise your hand. Councillor O'Reilly, Councillor Garrard, Councillor Long, Councillor Lim, Councillor Mehmeti, Councillor Foster.
Abstain.
Sorry, Councillor Tan has abstained. And all those against the item. Councillor Dark and Councillor Milkovich. So that is 7 for the alternate motion, 2 against and 1 abstained. Councillor Mehmeti, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very relieved, and thank you to the councillors that supported this alternate motion. Our community, as you can see, are here tonight. And it's not just these people. There are hundreds and thousands behind these people. This meeting is held in the night time. I'm sure there's many people that will listen to see what's going to happen through our media, our newspapers, and I hope that this goes up on our website to tell the community what's going on, because our community is growing and our community is disadvantaged, and I think by getting this project shovel-ready, I've been on this council, as Councillor Milkovich said, for a long time. I do know how it all works. I have been dealing with the state governments and federal governments over a long time, and I know when a project is shovel-ready, and I know a stimulus package will come soon, because our economy is not going to do too great in the next year or two. And then guess what happens then? If you have a project ready to go, you advocate, and the community needs, a disadvantaged community, we'll get funding and we will build this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I thank Mr Mehmeti for his strong support of this project, and Councillor Long as a ward councillor. It's an enormously well-supported project. I just want to say I have lived here for 30 years, and in that time I have never seen any community facility built. We talk about a lot of money here. I've seen community facilities being taken away. I've seen childcare being taken away. I've seen a number of facilities taken away. Nothing has been built here in the 30 years that I have lived here. This is not a community facility.
Excuse me, councillors.
This is not a community meeting.
Excuse me,
place.
councillors, please allow.
This is a business council. There has been nothing, nowhere for the community. I can promise you, I've lived here for 30 years.
Councillor Riley, please allow Councillor Garrard.
It's not a meeting place.
It's not a community library.
It's just been replaced with what we already had.
So I welcome the support from councillors for this tonight. I think it's a really good step in the right direction and clearly greatly needed and wanted.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. I just want to correct my maths. I did say 7-4. I was meant to say 6-4, 2 against and 1 abstained. Are there any other speakers, comments? No? We will move on to the next item. And I do love the enthusiasm in the gallery this evening. Item 4.2.4, list of registered correspondence to Mayor and councillors. Moved by Councillor Garrard, seconded by Councillor Tan. Are there any questions, councillors? Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. A question to the relevant officer. I note that there's a Dandenong trader has wrote to the Chief Executive Officer and yourself regarding parking in Mason Street. Can I just get some information about what that was about and how the officer is currently dealing with the parking issue in Mason Street?
Ms Weatherall?
Through you, Mayor, I'll take that on notice and I'll circulate the information to Councillor.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 5, notices of motion. 5.1, notice of motion number 25, banning of TikTok on council devices and network. Moved by Councillor Dark, seconded by Councillor Milkovich. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor O'Reilly, you have a question.
Thank you, Mayor. Question to the mover on this motion. What aspects of Greater Dandenong City Council could we presume that the Chinese government is interested in?
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. And I had a bit of a deja vu moment for a second, because I think as one of the few councillors who would use TikTok would be Councillor O'Reilly. The circumstances around this notice of motion are particularly to do with the fact that the security issues that the TikTok app has in its own right and the threat that it does have to council's infrastructure and framework. In 2017, the Chinese government passed a legislation through the Communist Party and through the parliament, if you call it that, where basically it meant that all companies based in China, employees who are based in China, must, upon a request by the Chinese government, hand over all information that's there. TikTok, the parent company, being a company called ByteDance, has admitted both in the Australian government and in the federal Senate hearings that have been conducted and also overseas that they do have servers that are based in China and they do have a substantial amount of employees based in China. The issue that has come from the app is that the technology in the app actually harnesses information and has access to additional information well beyond what any app that generally is based in the United States carries. What the risk is to, say, if I had it on my council phone, is that through the app and through TikTok, it has access to my facial recognition, my GPS position, and all my contacts and messages. Now, if I have text messages from all these lovely people in the gallery about saving the Dandenong Community Hub, the Chinese government, in essence, if I had TikTok on my phone, can access those messages, download those numbers, and then start spamming those numbers. And that is why the federal government and the state governments around Australia have taken action once the information came to light to ban the app, and that is why I've moved a motion to ban it here.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Are there any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? Yeah. Councillor O'Reilly in opposition. Councillor Dark, as the mover, would you like to speak?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I didn't think that'd be opposition to something like this, but clearly Councillor O'Reilly's influences must be well and truly strong. The reason behind this motion, as I've said before, is the threat that TikTok does pose to council's infrastructure, to the privacy and security of not only us as councillors, but our residents, and the information that this app stores. And the threat is real. That is why the federal government moved very, very swiftly to ban it, why the state government, within a few hours of the federal government moving to ban it, the Premier held a press conference and said the same thing, that it's being banned from the state government devices connected to the state government departments because of the risk that this poses to the security of our residents and to this council as well. The TikTok app may be very popular, and as the youngest council millennial, a lot of my mates, a lot of my friends use TikTok. A lot of other of my colleagues probably don't use TikTok or anybody use it, but the threat is real. In the event that you use TikTok and it downloads and uses your information, it uses your facial recognition, it tracks your location so it knows where you are, the threat becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. In December 22, TikTok employees admitted that they were spying on some journalists who wrote articles that were negative and anti-TikTok and anti-China. And they used the app to track these journalists, to find out their movements, where they went, to access their contacts, to access their phone gallery as a massive intrusion so that they could track and see who was providing information to them, what the journalists were writing about it. Now, if that happened, say, on a smaller scale here, if your phone, Mayor, if any of the councillors' phones were accessed and they started having a look and they were downloading information, the threat is real. And that is why I've moved this motion. That is why it delegates the authority to the Chief Executive Officer to take whatever steps are deemed necessary to ensure that the council is protected and council infrastructure is protected, and our residents' information and personal information is also protected as well. So I would implore my colleagues to support my notice of motion. But I do look forward to hearing what I'm going to get a point of order, what Councillor Riley has to say.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Councillor Milkovich as the seconder.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, look, there's not much I can add to what the Councillor Dark has already said. All I can say is that if there's even a slightest of chances that any of the sensitive information or the council operating system can be somehow hacked or gain access to by any app, I think it would be prudent of us as councillors to delete them from our council-owned devices. I don't have one, but anyone who wants to be on TikTok, they're welcome to go and buy a prepaid phone and just hook up from their personal device and have no risk of any council information being leaked whatsoever. So I think it's just a sensible thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Councillor O'Reilly, as the first opposition, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Well, I acknowledge that it's not really a big issue either way. It's not, well, I acknowledge it's not a big issue either way because there's no evidence that the Chinese government is hacking Greater Dandenong council phones to start with. And if we're making decisions based on evidence, are we doing that, or are we making it based on suspicions of a foreign government wanting to know, when a resident rings me up about a pothole, like a Chinese agent could be listening in? Councillor Dark has not answered how specifically the Chinese government would be interested in data around, Greater Dandenong's different services and that sort of thing. So it's not a big issue either way. It's just, I think, a bit unnecessary. I think, there might be some younger council workers that on their lunch break, look at TikTok videos, and that's fine. They might be too young for Facebook because, the young ones don't want to go on Facebook because all their parents are on it. So, they might be, they might want to do that. So I think it's fine either way. Just as an evidence-based decision maker, there's no real evidence that Chinese agents are spying on the city of Greater Dandenong through TikTok. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Any other speakers either for or against? Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a rare day indeed that I agree with Councillor Dark, who is in fact, I believe, the only person that has TikTok on his phone. We will be checking. But I think the important thing to note here is that there have been really serious issues, and I'm loath to ban anything at all, but the serious issues around the inappropriate use of data, particularly for around young people, the inappropriate investigating or analysing data to drill down and find personal data to be used in a detrimental way, particularly, as Councillor Dark pointed out, for journalists, is greatly concerning. I think that there is enough evidence to show that there is not good stewardship of the data, that the data is highly likely to be going back to China, and some of that data is or could be used maliciously. So I think that there is enough suspicion that we should take this use the abundance of precaution and to take this as a proactive measure. I support this.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Are there any other speakers either for or against this motion? Right of reply, Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I suppose my reply to Councillor O'Reilly's remarks, that the data is not about whether there's a pothole in the street. It's not about whether a bin got collected. The issue is that people's names, their email addresses, their mobile phone numbers, their phone numbers and their names are all data that can then be harvested, can be used, can be potentially on-sold, and then everyone starts getting spammed like night follows day. The technology we're seeing at the moment of AI, of the way that things can be manipulated, the way things can be drawn, if they're using facial recognition technology, we're only, I suppose, very small time frame away of the AI coming into full effect where people can be re-implicated, people's videos can be created where you're impersonating somebody and you have the same voice, the same facial dynamics, and for all you know, I could be writing a prescription in Lim Farm pretending I'm Councillor Lim. And that's the real issue that is at hand. The data collection and the data harvesting that goes to the key is the threat that is being posed by TikTok. The changes by the Chinese government to demand that they have access to this information from ByteDance, TikTok's unwillingness to relocate it from China to an American-based server, to bring it off and to get it out, is a clear sign that there's a whole lot more to it than meets the eye. Now, if the federal governments are banning it very, very quickly throughout all of their departments and the state government's doing the same thing, it would be reminiscent of this council not to look at the same thing to ensure that the data of our residents is safe and is protected, and that's why I've lodged this notice of motion.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. So we'll now go to a vote. All those in favour of this notice of motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Dark, Councillor Milkovich, Councillor Mehmeti, Councillor Lim, Councillor Long, Councillor Garrard, Councillor Tan, Councillor O'Reilly, Councillor Foster. It looks like everyone's in favour of it now. So as this item's declared carried. Well done, Councillor Dark, in your argument for your notice of motion. We now move on to item 4.2. Oh, sorry, 5.2. My maths is not great today. 5.2. We got it. There we go. Item, notice of motion number 26. There we go. Sorry, I've got the wrong piece of paper. Notice of motion number 26, Racism Not Welcome campaign. Moved by Councillor Garrard. Everyone wants to second it. Moved by Councillor Garrard, seconded by Councillor Dark. Sorry, you're quite quick. All right. Are there any questions? Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on, I know, like on my time on council, we've had anti-racism campaigns from time to time. Have they been like part of a broader council group, or have those racism campaigns been like originated from this council? Could I get like the background on those, please?
Thanks, Councillor O'Reilly. Mr Forster, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly, for your question. Yes, there are lots of initiatives working in this space through our Multicultural and People Seeking Asylum Advisory Committee. We are aware of the campaign that's being raised as part of this nom tonight and are referring this campaign to the Multicultural People Seeking Asylum Committee to seek their feedback on the matter as well, and also ensure that it fits in with the other broader initiatives that we're doing in partnerships that we're undertaking at the moment. So we'll bring that information back in the report that's being requested here as well.
Thank you, Mr Forster. I think
through you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, Mr Forster and I might not have communicated. We're proposing not to refer it to there, just to consider it tonight.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Are there any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Councillors who would like to speak to the item, Councillor Garrard.
Madam Mayor, I thank my fellow councillors for supporting this motion. This motion is about asking for a report for the establishment of racism not welcome street signs in our community, because, Madam Mayor, racism is harmful, and because it causes great harm to the individual and to the society. And the City of Greater Dandenong is at greater risk of racism, because we know from the annual racism report, the Scanlon report, that particular groups are at higher risk of racism. and all of those groups live here in the city of Greater Dandenong. We also know that racism is on the rise. We know that the rise of far right groups is increasing the likelihood of racist and discriminatory and prejudiced behaviour. It's incredibly important, Madam Mayor, that this council stands up and declares a zero tolerance for racism, but these are public and permanent displays that we as a community will not tolerate any level of racism. And to be clear, the reason we're not referring it to the committee is that this needs to be public, coordinated and localised council-level commitment. There are many other grassroots campaigns around this, but this is very much a visible council-led campaign that I believe up to 16 councils have now implemented, and it is going to be implemented in many more. And it's extremely important that this community, more than any other community, creates a visible signs, permanent and visible signs that they will not tolerate, that we will not tolerate any form of racism to our residents. So I thank my fellow councillors once again for supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Dark.
I haven't stood up enough today. Look, I agree with what Councillor Garrard stated, and I think that we do, as Australia's most multicultural municipality, need to ensure that we do have the right campaigns in place. There's only been very recently with some issues on a bus with a person that was heckling racial abuse at other people, and it causes a lot of issues for the community, for people who are on the receiving end of a racist tirade, and people who are around as well. It's disgusting and it's unwelcome behaviour. It's not something that should be welcome in any municipality, let alone in ours as well. So I look forward to seeing what this report comes back with in terms of not only the street signs and the way that they've been designed as well, but I do know that Craig Foster puts out a lot of stuff on social media. There are a lot of additional bits and pieces of social media tiles, except for TikTok, and then also the use of other things in terms of signage, letterbox drops, how we can incorporate into council media publications. I think there's a huge amount of opportunity for us to have that advertised. So I look forward to seeing what the report says.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Are there any other speakers? Okay, we'll move on to item 6. Reports from councillors, delegated members and councillor questions. Might start with you, Councillor Dark, given that you've been up and down a fair bit today.
Already ready to go.
I knew it.
No, thank you. I only really have one thing to mention tonight, and that was that I had the opportunity to attend with the majority of my council colleagues the Keysborough Big Picnic. As the ward councillor, we've had some horrific weather the last couple of years, and it had been washed out. It was very, very cold, and this year it was very good weather. The sun was out, it wasn't too hot, and with that, the community turned out as well. I've never been to a Keysborough Big Picnic as big as what it turned out to be, the one that was held this year. People who had come previous years returned and were very excited to see what was on hand, the queues lining up to pat the animals, the food stalls and the food vendors, the CFA. Everyone there was incredibly happy, and we're very, very happy to be out and about to see what was happening as well. I know the feedback, there was a lot of feedback offered to council's volunteers and people taking surveys as well, and people who had not been to the reserve since the works have been undertaken with the opening of stage 1 of the new playground, which was completely full as it could get, full of kids playing on the equipment, walking around and enjoying what was a fantastic day. So it was really, really good to see how well this puts out, and a special kudos to the Director of Community Services and his Directorate of Community Strengthening, and his Directorate for the work they put into delivering such a phenomenal event. And that is everything I've got.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Councillor Milkovich.
Nothing for tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Councillor Mehmeti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And following up from Councillor Dark's Keysborough Big Picnic, I also attended some great celebrations within our city. I attended the Nauru's Festival at Dandenong Park, where there was in excess of over 10,000 people at this event, which I think breaks a record for Dandenong Park. It's great testament to our Afghan community who have inviting people, doesn't matter where they come from, to these festivals and learning more about each other's cultures. So I thank them for their invitation. I also attended the Sri Lankan New Year Festival at Bennett Street at our showgrounds, which was also another great event where many thousands of people attended. And I understand that many other community groups are celebrating New Year's. I just asked Councillor Tan before. She told me that the Cambodian New Year's on Friday. So I'd like to wish all our community groups who are having New Year this weekend, Happy New Year. Also, Madam Mayor, it's also Ramadan at the moment. There's people fasting in our community, and I'd just like to wish on the 21st, which is a Friday, Eid Mubarak, which is the end of Ramadan, and a celebration for people who have been fasting, who have the Muslim faith. And last but not least, I had a photo in the chat with Serco, the people at Serco who initiative contacted both of us and wanted to do something as a recognition for autism. World Autism Understanding Day was on April the 2nd, and we actually lit up our town hall blue in recognition of all these wonderful people in our community. So it has been a busy few weeks, so thank you, and that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Councillor Lim.
Thank you, Mayor. Just the last fortnight I was very busy. The first thing is on Tuesday the 28th, I have a chance to meet Mr. Adrian Smith and Carl Lim on a regular basis from time to time, discuss about shape of Springvale. And thank you for our department that produced this shape of Springvale, very lovely, but first of all without other languages. But in a matter of 2 days only, Adrian come back with me with 2 different languages. One side is Vietnamese, one side can English. All I have English, but the other side is Vietnamese, Chinese, Indian, and Cambodian. Thank you, lovely for that one. And they are very passionate. Actually, Adrian and Carl are very passionate, come to see me on a regular basis just to try to advocate and to try to inform our community in Springvale especially. And for me, my role as social media, I also advocate very strongly around the world as well. Anyone that loves Springvale, please don't forget to use the QR code to put it on and feedback to us. What do you want Springvale to be in the future? And secondly, like Mr. Mehmeti already talked about Afghanistan New Year, very, very unbelievable. It's so many people turn up on that day. And also on the 29th of March, in the morning I had a chance to attend Springvale Rai Primary School. That's a great one. There's a lot of multicultural parents and students. They come to celebrate Harmony Weeks. It's just unbelievable. It means that they just want to bring all the idea of the principal just want to bring all the parents and students together to celebrate community multiculturalism and also children's voice as well. At midday, I had a bit of chance, to train all the Liverwell staff. Is invited by the Department of Human Services to train Liverwell staff, Hepatitis of Victoria, to train them how to understand, how to teach our community about liver, about hepatitis, and also the most important, fatty liver, and also the hepatitis caused by alcohol. And also on the same days in the afternoon, I got invited by body corporate. On the Thursday, the 30th of March, the Springvale Body Corporate, Springvale Central, invited me to discuss with some issue regarding to some beggars and homeless that cause a lot of trouble to Springvale Center. And I had a lot of chance to talk about 1.5 hours to discuss with that how to fix the problem. But not long after, the police arrested the guy that he's caused so much trouble to the center. But their concern at the moment is just how they're going to. The next morning, they rang me again to discuss how we're going to stop these people from coming to shopping center or activity center. My advice is just ask them to write a letter to the judge and also to the police to maybe introduce what we call the restriction, from them to come to Springvale Activity Center. And on Friday the 31st in the morning, I had a chance to meet, to attend actually lunch with Springvale Italian Citizen Club. And the idea is just celebrating Easter lunch. And evening, I had a chance again to provide health seminar to Sri Lankan professional group regarding fatty liver and also other hepatitis as well. On Sunday, the 2nd of April, I had a chance to attend Bright Moon Ching Ming, celebration with Councillor Tan and also Mayor Eden, and also other Member of Parliament as well, and Councillor O'Reilly as well. And on the same days, I also had a chance to meet with Mr. Lee Talamas, just discuss about Springvale Activity Centre again, mainly about how to revitalize Springvale. And in the afternoon, Mayor and I and Jim Mameti had a chance to meet the CEO of Mental Health Foundation. And Friday, the 7th of April, had a meeting with the President of Bright Moon Temple again regarding the insurance, how much we have to raise funds to rebuild the temple again and organize the fundraising in the near future on the 18th of April. And on Saturday, I had a chance again to attend the Sandbag Easter fundraising at Maxim with Deputy Mayor, also Councillor O'Reilly and Councillor Tan. And the same night, I attend Cambodian singing contestant organized by Cambodian Association of Victoria. Last night, I had a chance again to attend what we call Kenanaya Catholic Congress Springvale at Springvale Town Hall with Mayor Eden Foster. It's a great celebration that they really welcome us, and very warm welcome and very exciting and very well organized from prep student up to adult and senior. They organize dancing, cultural dancing, very impressive. Thanks, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lim. Councillor Long.
These are some of the events that I've attended since my last formal meeting. On the 7th of April, I attended a fish night at Dandenong City Soccer Club where they raised about $1,300 for the Royal Children's Hospital Good Friday appeal. On the 8th of April, I attended a soccer match between Dandenong City and Langwarrin. Dandenong City won 4-0. I've only got a few this time because I have not been well over the last 4 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, while we're on the theme of racism, with your indulgence, I'd just like to tell a quick story about an 18-year-old girl. I'd like to tell a story about an 18-year-old girl who dreamt of having a beautiful car. And for the 3 years prior to her 18th birthday, every weekend, every holiday, she worked at McDonald's and she saved her money. While other kids were having a good time, she was saving her money. By the time she became 18, she purchased the car of her dreams, a beautiful new car. And she went across to the west, picked up her 3 cousins to celebrate this beautiful car. And they sat in McDonald's on a Saturday afternoon in the western suburbs and were celebrating this lovely moment. Also sitting in that McDonald's were 5 policemen. And when the girls got back into the car and left that McDonald's, those 5 policemen jumped in their car, went like hell and pulled them over on the side of the road. 1 policeman in every window for 15 minutes. For 15 long minutes, they interrogated these girls, asked them where they had stolen this car from, and where they had got it from. For 15 minutes. Big, intimidating policemen with these young girls. These young girls had 3 things in common. They'd all been born and raised in Australia. They were all of African origin. They all followed Islam. 3 of the 4 girls were wearing hijab. Madam Mayor, those 4 girls will never forget that. They were racially targeted, they were chased down, and they were intimidated relentlessly for 15 minutes. And that will never leave those girls. And I know because one of them was my child. But the good thing is that from that moment, she was trying to decide what she would do at university, and she chose law. She's now studying law because when she is in a courtroom and there is a case of racial profiling, she will not let that go. And she will have her day in court. So I really don't want to cry, but I do. I do want to say that dealing with racism for me is personal, and it's incredibly toxic. And once again, I thank the fellow councillors for supporting that motion. I don't usually get applause when I cry, so thank you. It's very sweet. Madam Mayor, in my ward this past week, we had a fantastic meeting between senior council staff and residents in our ward. The 4 council staff came out in the evening, spent 2 hours with the residents, worked through their issues and came up with a list of solutions. The residents in King Court Drive and Ben Road have been suffering a number of issues since the rise of an industrial zone. So I really want to thank the 4 officers who listened so respectfully and who worked through the issues so diligently. So Jamie Thornley, Manager of Building and Compliance, Lucas Sitokis, Manager of Transport and Civil Development, Daniel, I'll leave Daniel's last name, and Jack Chittenden, Conservation and Horticultural. They came up with a range of solutions to reduce light pollution. They also redirected this GBS that was inappropriately bringing cars to their area. They have also applied to rename a road so that there will be not traffic directed to their area. They have placed mature planting to stop the visual impact of the industrial zone. They have enforced permit conditions on the industrial businesses, and they have made a commitment to ongoing communication. So it's a great example of council and residents working together, and I have to say it's one of my proudest moments as a councillor, and I sincerely thank, if you could pass on my thanks to those officers.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Councillor Garrett.
My questions tonight, my first question is, why have 4 mature gum trees been earmarked for removal near the corner of Perry and Keys Road, specifically number 75, 76 and 78?
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Councillor, and through you, Mayor. I'd like to advise that with regards to the proposed tree removal, Council has undertaken a biodiversity assessment of all the trees and vegetation along Perry Road, which has then assisted us in the design of the widening of that road. The markings on trees that residents may see are part of a process to identify the trees and obtain all the approvals needed from the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action for the potential removal of trees required for this particular project. Whilst the application to that department is for all 3 stages of Perry Road, tree removal will be undertaken in stages to align with construction timeframes. The main objectives of the limited tree removal is for safety reasons. Trees which are required to be removed between Greens Road and Pacific Drive will be removed for stage 1 of the project. That's intended to commence within the next few months. With regards to the 4 trees that you refer to, these are in close proximity to the Keys Road intersection, and they won't be removed until stage 3, which is unlikely to commence until the years 25-26 at the earliest. If we receive any feedback from the state government with regards to the application process that we've made on these particular trees, there is ample time to revisit the particular design of that precinct. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I still have time. My next 4 questions in relation to the Dandenong Aquatic Centre. My first question is regarding the peer review that is currently being undertaken. Can the officer explain what experience these consultants have in high performance building design? And can they provide examples of buildings where they have worked, been constructed to these standards, i.e. Passive House, 10-star?
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Councillor, and through you, Mayor. I can advise that with regards to this question, all consultants have the required experience in high-performing building design. The consultants have demonstrated experience with aquatic facilities and other public facilities. They all have broad experience in national projects of significance, and I can refer to just a few. For example, WSP, they've had experience with the Monash University Menzies Building Passive House. That's a current project. They also undertook the first 6-star building for CH2, of course, for the City of Melbourne. And they've recently done the Convention Centre, which is, again, a 6-star Green Star. They've also participating in a project related to the Glenroy Community Hub and also the Nunawading Community Hub, including a range of hospitals like the Bendigo Hospital and the Box Hill Hospital. So we're feeling very confident that the group that we've got, both with regards to the current consultant group, but also with regards to the review or audit consultant group, are the best in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My second question is, there have been very ambitious energy efficiency targets outlined in the design. What is the contingency, or what is the consequences if the designers fail to achieve these targets?
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Councillor, and through you, Mayor. There are numerous initiatives that have been incorporated into the design to achieve a highly efficient building, and this information has been previously presented to Council, and a further report following on from the recent audits will be presented to Council next month. Consequences of failing to meet energy targets may result in higher ongoing operating costs. That's a fairly important statement to make, of course. Importantly, though, and as previously mentioned, there are many factors that influence energy usage other than design alone, including particular weather that we may face, significantly hot days, and also the numbers of patrons that we have using the facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Are you able to provide us with an estimate of the energy of the centre, the energy it will use, and the cost according to current prices?
Mr Kearsley, please.
Per year.
Thank you, Councillor. The annual estimated energy consumption has been previously provided to Council. The total estimated electrical energy consumption for megawatt hours per year is approximately 2,875 with no PV, or 2,248 megawatts hours per year with PV. Further details will be provided to Council as an outcome of the audit, and that would include approximate costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My last question is, what sort of guarantee can the designers, engineers provide us with the stated outcome? What happens, again, if the standard, the overall standard, is not achieved?
Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Mayor. Best design practices and modelling have been completed to attain a design that is highly efficient and uses proven technology. The total energy use is influenced by multiple factors other than the design, and all efforts will be made during the construction and commissioning phase to ensure that the building operates at its highest potential. Post-commissioning monitoring will occur to continue optimising performance of the facility in real-life environment, and these measures have been factored into the operational forecasts. There is probably one final matter that we have undertaken at least 2 peer reviews on matters related to energy use and the technology that we are proposing for this facility, in addition to the recent audit that Council has asked for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Councillor Tan, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, just want to acknowledge and sorry to what happened to your daughter, Councillor Garrard. It is not acceptable, even we in this room, so sexism, bullying, harassing, especially toward gender, especially with girls, women, we all should be treated the same, okay? Okay, I just want to start with the report that I attended the last few weeks. Okay, so the first one is the 2nd of April. which is the Keysborough Picnic. I just want to congratulate to the Community Service Directorate, especially to the Festival and Events Council staff and volunteers. We've got 7,500 people attended to these events, which is the biggest compared to the previous year. So thank you for all the sponsors and everyone attended this event. On the 2nd of April, I also attended the Sinhala, which is the Tamil New Year celebration. That's hosted by the Sri Lankan German Technical Training Institute Old Boys Association. It is the biggest New Year celebration for Sri Lanka. We've got over 10,000 people attended on the event. That must be the biggest out of the whole country, which is congratulations to the organisation that organised these events. I believe this is the first one that we organised since COVID 2019, the biggest event. On the 8th of April, I also attended the South Eastern Melbourne Vietnamese Association, which is the council fundraising dinner for the Easter Saturday, which is also toward the Good Friday appeal. And in the morning, I also attended the Cambodian celebration. Also, I just want to say a Happy New Year to everyone who celebrated this month, not just Sri Lankan, Laos, Cambodian, Thailand, everyone that celebrated New Year. This is to do with the Buddhism calendar. So anyone fall into that calendar, we do celebrate in this time. Okay, so at night time, also attended the Cambodian singing contest with you, Mayor, Mayor Eden Foster, Councillor Richard Lim, also Mr. Lee Talamas MP, and Meng Hing Tak MP as well. My question tonight, Mayor, through you to the relevant officer, this is regarding to Patong Court at Ross Reserve. This is one of the CIP program that was installed late last year. Just got a few feedback from the resident regarding to the court. Just to, due to the surface, mainly it's built for the professional, okay, for the Patong Court to play. For some reason, the beginner or any new learner, they can't play on the court due to the surface a bit too soft. So just through the relevant officer, can we please investigate or can we try to fix the court, at least the first, make the surface harder so people can play on the court instead of building the court and no one play at the court at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Mr. Kearsley, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Mayor. If I could maybe get the details of the people who are communicating with you, and we can then pass on any comments that we have with regards to the status of the level.
Then it's through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kearsley. Councillor Tanner, any further questions? No. Okay, Councillor O'Reilly.
No report this meeting. Thanks,
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. I guess in the past couple of weeks, I've attended quite a few events myself, and I'll just go through some of them, and the rest will be tabled. So I attended the Children's Advisory Group and election of the Junior Mayor, which is a very exciting event, and I would like to congratulate Tasneem for being elected our Junior Mayor. She's got a full year ahead of her, no doubt, and it's great to see someone who's not taller than me so that I actually look like the mayor and not the junior mayor. Also attended the citizenship ceremony, and again, they're always a wonderful event, and it makes the role as being mayor and officiator over citizenship ceremonies a very moving and enjoyable event. I attended the Southeast Workforce Forum at McPherson and Kelly and was one of the panel speakers, and we spoke on a number of issues about I guess, challenges in the workforce at the moment and the number of changes that are there, and promoted Game Change, Council's program to address some of the concerns in terms of business and linking in some of our more vulnerable community members into employment and recognising that they have a lot of skill to offer, but perhaps are overlooked by prospective employers. So if any employers are listening out there or watching tonight, I really encourage you to get in touch with our business director and just ask about the Game Change program that we have. I also attended Harmony Day at St Anthony's, and again, a little plug for my old primary school, but it was really nice to visit my primary school again for the second time in a matter of weeks. But the kids were really embracing Harmony Day and dressed in fabulous outfits that really showcased the diversity at the school. And not much has changed at the school in terms of the school spirit. The buildings have changed, teachers have changed apart from a couple, but the friendliness, the warmth and the caring nature of that school is still there. I also attended the flag raising ceremony hosted by the Vietnamese community in Victoria out here in Harmony Square. Attended the Ching Ming Festival, which is the tomb sweeping day hosted by the Bright Moon Buddhist Society with some of my fellow councillors, and attended the Keysborough's Big Picnic, and as was mentioned before, was fantastic to see. I believe 7,500 attended the event, and the weather certainly did show up that weekend. So it was a great opportunity for our residents to really get involved and have a fun family picnic day in Keysborough. And that same day ran off to the Palm Sunday Walk for Justice with my fellow councillor, Councillor Garrard, Walk for Justice for Refugees. And we walked under the Back Your Neighbour banner. And again, a really important cause that challenges racism, that supports refugees and asylum seekers and welcomes them. And we are a friendly refugee welcome zone, but in terms of advocating further for not welcoming racism, and it shouldn't be welcomed anywhere, I really, hats off to you, Councillor Garrard, for raising a fantastic daughter who's worked hard, but it's unfortunate that despite that, racism is still around. And as a coloured woman myself, I've experienced it, my mother's experienced it, so I know firsthand as well what that does to a person. Also attended with my fellow councillors the Cambodian singing contest hosted by the Cambodian Association of Victoria. It was a late one and unfortunately I couldn't stay the whole night, but congratulations to the winner and also to all of those who participated. It takes a lot of courage to stand up there on a stage and sing your hearts out. And just last night I attended the 2023 Victorian, and I cannot pronounce this for the life of me, and I will try, Canadian Catholic Congress Cultural Family Evening, in celebration of their culture and tradition, and also in celebration of Easter. And given it is a very festive time of the year, I would like to wish our residents Eid Mubarak coming up. Happy Passover for our Jewish friends, and happy Easter for those celebrating Easter, either weekend just gone or the Orthodox Easter weekend coming up. And Happy New Year to our Cambodian friends, our Sri Lankan friends, and to everyone who's celebrating something this time of the year. We are truly blessed in the city of Greater Dandenong to be having some festivities at any point in time of this year. So that's it from me. Ms Weatherall, are there questions from last meeting to take on notice?
Yes, and they'll be attached to the minutes of the meeting.
Thank you. Item 7, urgent business. As there is no urgent business, I declare tonight's meeting closed at 9:08 p.m. Thank you very much and have a good evening.